Friends, spiritual Barbies, spiritual Kens. We're so excited for this episode. We've been looking forward to it for some time. It is Gabrielle Celeste, and you're listening to another episode of the Spiritual Sisters podcast. Hi.
Hey guys, it's Nichole, and we are so excited because, oh my gosh, is this our first male guest besides Dad?
No, besides Dad.
Yeah, but like our first, like our real guest, right? Like Dad, was, but like he kind of like doesn't count. Oh my gosh, it's our first male guest, guys. We have Mr. Brett Lloyd, the Thankful Carnivore, here to blow minds, I think. Because Brett, I messaged you yesterday, and I was so fascinated. I did my homework a little bit late, and I was trying to catch up to get ready. And I was like, this man is so fascinating, and I just want to talk to him all day, every day. Hello, sir.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to speak with you all in real time.
Yeah.
Instead of just talking to you while you're all talking on the screen of my television or my computer.
I know.
I resonate with a great deal of what you all have to say, and I'm very much looking forward to this discussion. I know we're going to share really important information with people who need to hear it.
Definitely. So we're going to jump right in. So Gabs, do you want to ask the questions, or do you want me to ask?
We're going to go half and half, but okay.
Go ahead.
But Brett, you know what? Side note, we had a little discussion, and Brett, you came so prepared, and we're just kindly asking that you lead a boot camp for all of the guests that come on, because you didn't miss a beat.
Nope.
So that being said, can you please kindly share what your big three are in astrology?
My sun is Pisces. Makes sense. I'm a Pisces. My Scorpio is rising, and my moon is in Libra.
Okay.
I think I got all that right. That's the three.
Okay.
My life path's a number 8. And my human design is a 5-1. I'm a heretic investigator.
Okay.
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard that one.
I don't think we have had any 5-1s on the show yet, so another first there too.
Oh my!
Do you know what your type is? Do you know if you're a manifesting generator, projector, reflector?
I'll read to you what it says here. I'm a natural leader and role model who brings change and challenges the status quo. That's the heretic side of me. The investigator is curious, detail-oriented individual who seeks knowledge and understanding.
Okay. I wonder what
really describes the last year in particular.
Okay.
Well, I think we're really going to get into what that looks like, especially as we dive into what we're covering in this just show. So,
okay.
Well, that was the second question. Thank you for covering that.
He doesn't even need us. We're just going to disappear, and he's going to just, he's going to take care of it on his own.
The show would go, everybody would quit listening and watching if you all disappeared.
I doubt it. I think they're going to be really interested in what you have to say. Okay, so those were the first two. Okay, what are my next questions? If you could read for anybody, who would it be? Or give your offering to anybody, who would it be?
Living or dead or living?
Living or no longer living.
Okay. I want to read the human being or the being that designed and oversaw the construction of the Great Pyramid.
Oh, that was one of the questions I had. So love that.
Interesting. Well, now you're going to have to ask that question, Gabs.
I guess so. Yeah. Oh,
okay.
I very much. The more I think and meditate on it, and the more I astral travel to the Great Pyramid, I just it's awesome. It creates a real feeling of awe. I'm awestruck every time even seeing video. I'm just like,
okay.
The human species is never going to come, assuming the human species had anything to do with its creation in the first place, which I have significant doubts about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then what are some of your go-to podcasts lately?
Next Level Soul, the Spiritual Sisters podcast.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, I have too. I hear they're nice ladies. The Danica Patrick podcast can be very interesting at times with the right guest on. I've watched a lot of spiritualism related interviews on her podcast.
Interesting.
Those are the main three.
Okay, I'll have to check out those two.
I highly recommend Danica Patrick. That is one. You both of you would be very impressed with her.
Yeah, she's cool.
She's
I've listened
very
to her.
Well read. She's been to Egypt numerous times. She's curious as she can be, and she doesn't ask any useless questions.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that one out. I'll add that to my ever-growing podcast library. Okay, Brett. Last question: if you could go to any concert of any artist, living or no longer living, who would it be?
I would very much like to see the 1977 lineup of Pink Floyd.
Oh.
The version that performed the Delicate Sound of Thunder live album.
Okay.
That's who I would give just about anything to be able to go see that version of the band again.
I feel like that's very on brand. Sometimes people will throw some random thing out there and I'm like, oh, that really surprises me. But I don't feel super surprised hearing that by you. But I love that. I love that answer because it's very specific, right? It's 1977. It's not just, Pink Floyd.
I'm a musician, and until recently, I was performing live fairly regularly. And one of my signature songs was doing an exact cover from that particular live performance of Comfortably Numb.
Okay.
And it's had an incredible impact on me, and I've learned a lot of metaphysical things from performing that song that I never would have anticipated in a million years. Hopefully we'll get to talk about it.
Super random. But have you ever heard of this artist, Michael Franti? I feel like you would like him if you haven't heard of him.
That name does not ring a bell right now,
no?
But that does. If they're new, that would be why, because I don't listen to a lot of new music. I don't listen to the radio very much. I'm also a songwriter and whatnot, so I'm very particular about what I listen to and when I listen, etc.
Yeah, he's not super, super new, but and he's not very mainstream. He's not very popular either. Gabby wasn't really into him, and I made her go to a concert with me once, and she had such a good time.
It was a good time. Yeah,
she was like, "I would come again."
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was
awesome.
It was a vibe.
I went to one of his concerts recently, and I was in tears, and I was like, "Why am I crying?" Like I was just so overcome with emotion, and just the energy there is so good. And there's a lot of a lot of hippies, and I was crying. I'm like, what am I doing? I look so weird right now crying at this concert.
I have similar experiences. I will hear music that I haven't heard in a long time, and I can get emotional.
Yeah,
just like that.
Yeah, totally.
I started to get emotional as I was telling you about that lineup with Pink Floyd, and that makes no sense to me whatsoever why I would do that.
Yeah,
it's not like I knew them. Although I must say, their guitar player David Gilmour. My birthday's March 6th. His birthday's March 6th.
Oh, cool.
Okay, yeah,
love that.
Soul Food energy.
Okay, so Brett, we want our listeners to know your story and to know about you. Like I said, I was catching up and I was doing my homework on you, and I was like, oh my gosh, he is so fascinating. And I feel like I would talk to you for hours, which would be great because then we could have you on several times. Well, we can't do that in one sitting, but tell the people a little bit about yourself and your background, and why. Give them an idea of why I think you're so fascinating.
Again, thank you for this wonderful opportunity to speak with you both. I'm fanboying big time.
Thank you for being here.
I've enjoyed your all's work a great deal, and I remember when I was as young as you all are.
It wasn't that long ago.
Well, I'm 63 years old and grew up in Huntington, West Virginia. I had my first metaphysical experience around the age of 7.
Oh.
When a being I now know, her name is Orna, came to me the first time. There was a circle of sparkling white lights, and I could hear a tingling sound, and I could feel my head. I now know it. I didn't know it then at the time, obviously. My head started filling up with energy. I never felt, I wasn't frightened. I was not worried. I just knew instinctively, intuitively probably as well. I couldn't tell my parents about this. Because I knew they would not understand, and my dad would probably get angry and accuse me of telling tall tales.
Right.
And she would show up every so often. So I want to start with that. I grew up in a typical lower middle class home. Childhood was a challenge, but we got through it. I'm here. My parents had an enormous vegetable garden. We had beautiful meals year round, fresh vegetables, plenty of meat, plenty of, we were a textbook example of the food pyramid. And out of the 4 of us, my little baby 6-foot-tall sister almost died from ulcerative colitis a few years ago. My mom's had a number of health issues, and my dad passed away in 2020 after 20 plus years of type 2 diabetes. Myself, I suffered from chronic mental illness for 43 years of my life, major depression, chronic anxiety, and chronic insomnia. I'm not going to go through all the gory, ugly details of that nightmare. If you want to know more about that, you can go to YouTube, type in Brett and Lloyd carnivore interviews, and you'll see dozens of things come up. You can find out more about my health journey there. In July 16th of 2018, I began the carnivore lifestyle. I only eat meat. I only drink water. Today is my 2123rd consecutive day of only eating meat and only drinking water, and I've had exactly 0 problems in that time. In 24 days, I lost 43 years worth of depression symptoms. In 6 months, I lost 43 years worth of anxiety problems. And in 10 months, all the damn insomnia was gone. I've been symptom-free for over 5.5 years. My quality of life before spiritualism was off the charts because the diet provides what I call effortless daily happiness. I wake up smiling before my feet ever hit the floor. Every moment of every day, except when life throws a curveball at us. But even that's so much easier to navigate when your brain's not inflamed and you're not on fire within all the wrong stuff. No longer manifesting negativity 24/7 makes a difference. And without the carnivore experience, we would not be having this conversation. In fact, I probably wouldn't be on this side of the grass. I probably would have already transitioned.
Wow.
I probably would have never made it to 60. But thankfully, I was blessed to have this wonderful recovery. I started teaching and coaching people and I still coach people how to succeed at this way of eating. I did one interview, which I'll talk about very briefly. The very first interview I ever did, it was audio only. It was the original Carnivore cast. It's called something else now. And I thought maybe 50 people might hear it, and 25 would like it, and 25 would hate it, and several thousand heard it. And people were just insanely kind with their response. And then I got a voice message from somebody on Instagram, a 22, 23-year-old male, thanked me for what I had to say because he said, because I listened to your words, Brett, I no longer wanted to kill myself.
Oh, wow. That's such a huge Wow.
Yes. And, I'm a hard-headed guitar player, but even I could sense that I was being given an important message, and I became an advocate for the lifestyle. Don't try to drive it down people's throats. I recommend everybody give it a try, because it's not for everyone. If you're feeling great and you experience joy on a daily basis, you probably don't need to do it. But if you've been suffering from chronic illness for many years, you've followed the doctor's directions and you don't get better, maybe you ought to try it and see what happens.
I think you said something recently or on one of the podcasts, and you were saying that and it was either podcast or your YouTube, or not YouTube, Instagram, that for your physiology, that is what works. And I thought that was such a small, but like a really important piece, because for some people, veganism is what works best for their physiology. For some people, it might be a carnivore diet. For other people, it might be a combination of other things. And so I think everybody's body is so different. So like you said, it's not for everybody, just like being a vegan isn't for everybody. Some people need the protein. Sometimes, like for me, I don't do very well with red meat. Usually, like, it's kind of hit or miss. So like, I know that maybe that wouldn't work for me entirely, but maybe I would need a combo of something. So I think, for everybody, it's going to look different. For Brett, it works perfectly. And for someone else that might say, hey, veganism is the way to go and it works great for me. Well, that might not work for someone like Brett or, anybody else. So I think that's a great piece.
It would definitely not work well for me. Meat is not just my fuel, it's my medicine. And, from experience, if I'm late taking my medicine, bad things can start to happen. And happen very fast. So I get into coaching and teaching, and I'm doing coaching sessions with people online for the next 4.5 years. And without sounding like a braggadocious bald guy, I was pretty good at it. But I would have that feeling. I now know it was filling up with energy. And I would say things to people that I'm like, after the session would be over, I'd be like, where the hell did that come from? that was bizarre. That was something profound.
So profound.
Came out of my mouth. How did that happen? And also for about 4 years, for a platform I no longer work for, I don't even mention their name, I facilitated 2 to 3 mental health meetings a week. And I would have the same kind of experience dealing with groups. And I would get phone calls after those. And I would also feel so energy depleted after that. And I just thought, well, I was concentrating really hard. It was a big group, made typical therapist type excuses for why that might be the case. And it wasn't until we got into spiritualism, my wife and I, and she heard me mentioning I did a lot of coaching sessions, and she heard a lot of it. And she said, Brett, you've been doing readings for years. You just didn't know it. Wow. That caught me. That was a smack up against the head I didn't anticipate.
Yeah.
And slightly more than a year ago, my wife and I'm a Catholic convert, recovering. My wife's recovering Catholic as well. We were attending Mass. But we came across this interesting documentary on Netflix, narrated by a guy named Graham Hancock, called Ancient Apocalypse. And if you haven't seen it, I highly encourage everybody to go watch it. It blew our minds. And it made us curious. And I started going down the various rabbit holes, because these sites were much older than anything in the Bible. The history of certain writings predated the Bible by over 1,000 years. Something wasn't right. And I put myself on a mission to try to gain better understanding. And then we got a Gaia subscription.
I want one so bad.
I highly recommend it. I recommend it for newbies and for those who are very experienced and highly evolved, because the information on there is just stellar. There's a dud once in a while, but those are few and far between. And learning about our ancient history became something I was very thirsty for. And then I would hear talk about, and then had these mediums on and had these channelers on and interviewing them. And I always found the channelers fascinating. You agree with another being to be their mouthpiece. And I just found that to be just incredible to be able to do that. And then there's people like Sheila Gillette and Mr. Duranka. They've been doing it for 40 and 50 years. And the information that comes out of their mouth is just spectacular and very interesting and very useful and very helpful, and crosses a wide range of topics. And one day I looked at my wife and I said, honey, I can't go back to Mass anymore because I'm living a lie. I can't justify it anymore. And I'm not trying to crap on Catholicism. I'm not against anybody participating in whatever faith suits their needs, whether it's Christianity, Islam, whatever. It's none of my business. So for a couple of weeks, we didn't go to church, but then I realized we got to have we can't just exist. We're learning, but we're going to need assistance. We're going to need to be around other like-minded people and to learn what they've learned. And so I started doing the search, and I kept, New Age churches. I've changed the search parameters. This one church kept popping up all the time, but I kept thinking that name's just too crazy. This can't be real. But I finally clicked on it. It's the Cosmic Church of Truth. And it's right here in Jacksonville, Florida, where we live. And I told my wife, I said, we need to go there once. And she's like, I'll go. Sure. Let's go try it. And we go the first Sunday that we attend, which is just 2 weeks away from being a full year since we first went. And 2 steps inside the door, I'm hugging, somebody's hugging me. You all love this. We walked through that door and we heard this before they started hugging us. Look, new energy. And these 60 and 70-year-old people started coming up and hugging us, and welcoming us. And my wife and I were like, both of us talked about it on the way home. Like, this is a home we've been looking for years.
I heard you describing the church on one of the recent podcasts, and I was thinking, why can't we have something like that around here? Because it sounds like something I think we would totally be into. And then I thought, well, maybe we could start our own church. And I always joke about, being a cult leader, but I'm like, no, but I wouldn't be a cult leader. I would be a church. I don't even want to lead, but I just think it sounds like such a great church. I'm like, this is fascinating. We need one of these here.
Yes, you could call yourself one of the founders.
Ooh, founding energy.
There's actually a group, and I learned about this from a carnivore coaching client several months ago. It's spiritual learning centers, SLCs, and you can Google these. And they're prominent in larger populated areas. Like the one I learned about from the coaching client was located in Dallas, and they had Reiki healers on call. They had people to do mediums and regular psychics to do readings. Mm-hmm. They offered a whole host of classes so people could develop their skill sets or discover what might resonate, what modality might resonate with them. And I think if we had 50 of those in every state in the Union, the tension in our country would greatly diminish.
Totally. So, Brett, if I can pivot a little bit, because I'm wondering, I did hear the story about the church, and like you're talking about these spiritual learning centers and how they can kind of help you discover your gifts. And so, when you started going to the church, and I think I know the answer because I think this is why you're here. What was one of the gifts that you realized you had that maybe you didn't know?
Well, initially, I'd never meditated in my life until the middle of June of last year.
Wow.
And they had they still have it, a mediumship circle class on Fridays. And I was immediately, my wife and I were immediately drawn to that. And we attended 2 or 3 of those. And of course, we were newbies, nothing really. My wife saw some things. She's actually much more clairvoyant than I am. But I approached it as something that I just needed to be patient with because I was so rawly new, so much I did not know, and I knew I didn't. And through the month, toward the middle of July, I started figuring out how to meditate properly. I got to where I could get into that theta state, whichever one of those Adas it is. And I started, my guides had names. I could converse with them. My guardian angel started, and all of this started happening, and it was so beautiful. And so I decided the next mediumship class, I would treat it as a meditation. Because what I had been doing previously, my attitude, the whole night, it wasn't working. I wasn't seeing anything. I wasn't feeling anything. I was just kind of taking up space. And, I can do that at home for nothing. And I went to this particular meditation and I treated it, started doing just exactly like I would in the meditation. And suddenly I could see this yellow goldenish ball of energy in my mind's eye view. And I knew, that's you, Brett, that's me, it's my energy. But then a few seconds later, there's this blue ball of energy on the left side of my mind's eye. And I'm like, whoa, what is that? That's not me. What is that doing here? And the lady leading the class always said, if something weird happens or you start seeing or experiencing something you don't understand, don't try to figure it out. Bring it to the group. Let us help you try to understand it. And so I brought it to the group. And all the teacher said was, sounds like somebody may be doing a little channeling in the future.
There we go, the channeling.
I immediately thought, you're crazy. What's any being going to want to come through me for? I'm an old guitar player, sick for years, got a lot of really bad habits. I got a really bad foul mouth. What do you want to come through me? That just didn't make any sense to me at all. And then about 5 or 6 minutes later, an extraordinarily talented young man came to me and said, Brett, standing on your left is an extraterrestrial with sapphire-colored eyes. And we want you to know that if you're willing, they will make a connection with you.
And that is?
Well, my intuition literally jumped out of my stomach to turn around and scream at me, say yes, do it. And I said yes. And that was when I connected with a energy-like being named Orna.
Orna.
Who is of Arcturian, it's O-R-N-A for those who are wondering how it's spelled. And she's of Arcturian descent. She's over 10,000 years old. And she's here on a mission from Source to assist with the ascension of the planet. And she's got a very specific message that she is committed to sharing. And I happen to be the mouth that she shares it through. And once Orna arrived, everything changed in all sorts of ways. And I suddenly became able to hear things. I'm very clairaudient, much more clairaudient than I am clairvoyant. My clairvoyance has started finally coming in, which I'm happy about. And clairsentience, claircognizance, that knowing things started happening greater and greater regularity. And one day, Saturdays, once a month, they have what's called a day of healing. And they'll bring one or two readers in, but they'll bring a lot of Reiki healers into the church. And people can come in and pay for those services. Very affordable. 30-minute healing for $20. Not a bad deal.
Mm-mm.
And 25-minute reading for $20. Again, affordable. And I just happened, I can put my hands on it. I had just gotten curious about oracle cards, angel cards.
Oh, I have that deck.
Yeah, Angel Answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Anyway, I got this delivered the day before this particular day of healing, and my wife was working the desk there for that, and so I didn't have anything to do that day. So rather than being bored at home, I went there thinking, well, I'll be bored there, but I'll read the manual and I'll shuffle the cards and see if I feel any. Well, none of the readers showed up that day. And two people came in wanting readings. And it just so happened the president of the board of the church was running that particular Saturday. And he saw me over there messing with the cards, and he's like, you know how to use those? And I said, well, I kind of got an idea. He said, come on, you're up. We need 2 readings done.
No pressure.
And I'm like, this is unexpected. I didn't see it coming this way. And I knew 30 seconds into the first reading experience, I've been doing these for years.
Mm-hmm.
I could feel it. It was no different than any coaching session I had ever done. It's just instead of doing it via Zoom, I was face to face with them with just a table between us. And I had no problems at all. The first sitter was extremely happy with what I had to share. And the cards were very kind to me and very helpful. And the second one, I was dealing with an individual suffering from severe mental illness. They were barely functional, but they were also very pleased with the reading they received. And this was in October of this year. So Orna showed up the 4th of August. And then at the end of October, I'm doing those 2 readings. And then somebody had an emergency. And then every Saturday, or not every Saturday, the second Saturday of every month, we have at our church, they have what's called the psychic fair. And they'll have 5 or 6 readers. People come in. There'll be healers there as well for Reiki if somebody wants it. And they were shorthanded. And so they said, you want to do it? I'm like, sure.
I have a question about
it's
just a quick yes or no. But so now that you work with Orna and know when she's around, do you think that when you are giving readings, is it you? Is it Orna? Is it a combination?
Stop it. That was my question.
Of course it was.
It's mostly me, and
Okay.
she assists where needed. For instance, when I have somebody who wants to have a loved one brought forward, I give Orna their name and say, go find everything out about them you can, and or bring them to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happens. She helps the connection occur. And I've never had a problem with that. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Gabe.
I wanted to. Does Orna identify as female? Does she have a gender? Okay, female.
Yes,
okay.
She is female energy. She is
female energy. Perfect. I have so many questions for Orna. So through by way of your higher self.
Well, we'll make answer as we can.
Okay.
Orna will as well. If you got more questions, go ahead and ask them.
I was going to pivot to Nichole and see if she wanted to cast questions before I asked Orna a question.
Nope.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I'm going to proceed then. So Orna, I have a question as to what powers that be decided to make planet Earth a place for reincarnation for souls for their growth?
That's an excellent question, Gabby. First off, let me share with you how pleased I am that you agreed to speak with Brett and I today. Appreciate this exchange of energy and knowledge with the hopes of having the highest possible outcome from our gathering. Your question was well stated. Source, the creator of all things, made the decision that planet Earth is going to be the schoolyard for humans primarily, but other beings who are willing to incarnate into human form are also available, because humans can experience emotions that cannot be experienced anywhere else. And there are many beings who crave to understand what compassion feels like, what unvarnished love truly is, and to be of service to others in ways that do not directly benefit us. Hope this sufficiently answers your question. And do you have another question to ask?
Thank you so much for that. Where do souls exist or go if they do not reincarnate on Earth?
They remain in the fourth dimension, in the spirit realm, many of them. Some try to find a more advanced soul to assist them in their travels, which isn't allowed very often, is my understanding. Primarily, no human soul, no soul in general is required to reincarnate. It's the reincarnation gives the soul, the spirit, a new opportunity to surpass certain challenges, to reach certain goals, to make their soul vibrate at a higher frequency. Some souls who choose to be in service to self tend to be in the denser regions of that particular dimension, the fourth dimension, where the energy is more dense. I hope I have answered your question sufficiently. If I haven't, please restate it, and I will try to make a greater answer.
Thank you so much for that. My next question is, there's talk about transition from the 3D to the 5D, and many light workers having incarnated on planet Earth to support that transition. Is there an alien war or some type of light versus dark combat that is happening in a different dimension that's being reflected on planet Earth? Or is it happening right in front of our eyes in some capacity that we need to know more about?
In many cases, it's happening just outside of a regular human's viewpoint, but it is happening. There is a war. It's being called the Frequency Wars. It's been happening since 2019 was when it began. And as a channeler named, I believe Wendy Kennedy is her name, spoke on Gaia recently about this. In 2027, it will is when the war comes to an end, and that publicly for the first time, contact with an alien species will be made, and it will be publicized because it will be made in a way that cannot be hidden, for the purpose of ending the manipulators' control over the planet and to bring the human species fully, collectively, into the light of source. You have other questions?
I have full body chills. My question before I pivot to my sister, selfishly, is how can the spiritual sisters support the light force in this frequency war?
The first thing I always recommend is to meditate on the matter. Meditation, as you both are very much aware, is a powerful tool. You don't need large groups of people meditating upon an issue to have an impact in your communities or in your collective, however you choose to name it. There have been many studies done when groups of people meditate on reducing violent crime, for instance. There's plenty of studies done. This information is also available on Gaia. There's been many studies done that show huge drops of violent crime, 75 to 85%, when just a mere 1,700 people agreed to meditate and ask the universe for less crime in a given area. So I encourage people to gather in groups of 5 or communicate in groups of 5 and agree to collectively meditate 20 minutes a week, more if time permits, for the healing of the planet, for the cleansing of the planet, for the ascendancy of the planet, for more and more of the human species to come to an understanding that love is the universal tool that Source makes available to each and every one of us. And with love, the planet will ascend. Humanity will evolve to the 5th dimension. It will take place. There are many beings such as like myself who are in their way sharing the same and or very similar message. The time is much nearer than many are able to comprehend to this great change happening. We're hearing more and more about great changes taking place. When I say we, I mean Brett and I specifically, but including you both tonight. We are going to see some incredible things occur that are going to be both terrifying and beautiful, but in the end, Mother Gaia will ascend and the human species will evolve and ascend with her. Have other questions?
I have just 2, and I hope they're simple, more simple questions. So in the past, we have referred to other beings that are not on planet Earth as aliens. I think more recently we've tried to switch to using the words like ET or, extraterrestrial. So I'm just kind of wondering, is there a preference? Because we had kind of heard that the term alien was, like a bit of like kind of a disrespectful term. So I just kind of wonder, what is the preferred verbiage we should be using when we're referring to other beings outside of planet Earth?
As non-terrestrial beings. It's factually correct. It's inoffensive. You will never be counseled or questioned for using that particular phrase when referring to beings who were not born on planet Earth, but who come to planet Earth for whatever reason that may be. And there are the beings who choose to be incarnated on planet Earth. They will be incarnated in a human form, calling them starseeds. Is an inoffensive but not completely accurate term that Brett hears quite often mentioned on different podcasts and the Gaia channel, calling a being what they actually are. They're not from the planet. Acknowledge them as such. There's no being I'm aware of is going to be offended by it.
And thank you. My other question is, so we've heard of the Arcturians, we've heard of the Greys, and I can't think of the other ones that we've heard of, but how many other races are there other than, the kind of two that I just mentioned? I know there's more and my mind's drawing a blank.
There are millions upon millions of different species. There are billions of planets. Source never ceases creating new worlds, new creatures, new forms of life, and Source shall never cease doing so. There are as many species of beings in this universe as there are grains of sand on the planet. So it's not unusual by any measure that you can only recall a couple of names off the top of your head. For the true answer is more vast than we have time for me to share.
I thought it might be something like that. I can imagine that there's so many.
The creator of all things is never idle, and creation is what Source does better than anything that has ever or will ever exist.
Those were the only questions I had. Thank you.
Orna, thank you. I hope that at some point we come across each other's paths again.
It's been a pleasure serving you both. I bid you a beautiful good evening. I shall let Brett come back. Well, you're not crying and you're not laughing hysterically, so I'm assuming that went well.
I have so many questions about that. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I had full body chills. I was like, "Oh my god, I sense it." It was really cool.
Well,
so you could feel her. Could you feel her presence? Because
at the beginning of the podcast, I was like, "Oh, I see the energy behind you," and then I just like wish sometimes when I get into a meditative state or when I'm receiving downloads, I get this weird like my body shakes. I can't explain it. Mm-hmm. And then that was happening as you were speaking, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool."
Well, we had a bit of electronic interference too, right? When you were going into channel, the computer like disconnected or something for a while, and it was like trying to reconnect. So something electronic was going on when that happened.
This has happened before. I was with a friend of mine online. She's a budding medium like myself. And she has problems with light bulbs bursting and lights flashing all the time because of her energy. She's not put proper boundaries around herself yet. She's still learning.
Yeah.
But this kind of electronic disruption is actually kind of common. I channeled her in front of 5 people 2 weeks ago, and they felt her. They felt her love. They felt her energy, and the looks on their faces were one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had, because they were all genuinely euphoric over what they experienced, what they heard. And I have a friend of mine who helps me. We've channeled a book, and we've channeled one book already, and we're in the middle of channeling the second one. While the first one's, the editing's being completed. We've got a real book editor doing the work. It's not a do-it-yourself thing, thank God. And there's an interesting side story to that. Orna said in the beginning, she said, whatever is needed will be provided. I'm a guitar player. I know a little bit about the process of getting songs published and things like that, but nothing, And if you don't have a book, nobody's going to pay attention to just because there's so many channelers out there. You're not going to get on any podcasts or any other bigger shows with bigger audiences if you don't at least have a book. And she came with a plan, and so far everything she said would happen has taken place. We've had everything we've needed to make it work. And part of that process is a lady, a dear friend of mine, in Orna's now, named Nina. Nina bought the very first carnivore shirt my wife ever sold. My wife is a graphic designer. She makes Prince t-shirts. And I hadn't spoken with Nina in 5.5 years. She ordered a shirt. I thanked her for her order. Could you please take a picture wearing the shirt so that I can post it on social media? She did that. And then we didn't say a word to each other for 5.5 years. She started coming. She followed me on Instagram and Facebook, and she started listening to my morning blues that I do, which I gave Nichole a taste of today. Thank God
That's
she
so
liked
good.
it. I'm so grateful that you enjoyed it. And I'd never gone to Nina's Instagram page. I had no idea I didn't know anything about her except she had this shirt. Well, I know Orna made this happen. Just suddenly one day out of nowhere, Nina's Instagram page showed up first in my feed. Galactic this, QHHT that. She's a QHHT practitioner. And I sent her a message and said, I didn't know you were into all this. And I shared a little bit of my experience with her. And we got together and had this beautiful conversation online. And I said, I think I might have been sent to you for a specific reason. And I told her, I said, I think you're supposed to help me with Orna. Who's Orna? And so she was nonplussed about it. She was not caught off guard. She opened her arms and literally embraced us both. And for the book, Orna would tell me, I want to talk about the importance of families with regards to humanity. And then I would send Nina a message, okay, on this, when we get together to channel Orna next, this is what she wants to talk about. And Nina would start every one of those sessions off with, Orna, I understand you want to talk about families today. And then Orna would make a statement. And then Nina would ask questions like an interview. And her questions are always very profound and gets deep in the weeds. But yet, when you read it, well, you all read the two sessions of it. You can see Orna's words. She puts her energy onto those words. And it's hard for a lot of people, once they start reading it, to put it down.
I have a question, Brett, about...
I hope that explained things. I realized I was talking. I couldn't remember why. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when you are channeling, are you aware of what's being said? Because I know for some people, well, I don't know about channeling specifically, but like in hypnosis, for some people, I forgot what the term is, but there are some people that can go under hypnosis and they don't recall anything. And then there are some people that are in hypnosis and they're very aware of what's happening. So with the channeling, what is it like for you when that is coming through?
I basically take a spiritual step backwards, if you will. That's the closest thing I can come to giving it any real explanation. And I might hear a word here or there. If something is said that would create an emotional response in me as Brett, my body will respond to. I have come out of trance before. I'd been crying, had no idea what I was crying about, but my face was wet. It was coming from my eyes. Obviously, something triggered me.
Right.
And Orna has said some profoundly beautiful things that has inspired that kind of a reaction. But no, I don't really remember. Like, I had no idea what you asked her just now. I won't know
Oh.
what she said until I see the
So you listen?
video playback. Yeah, I do.
We didn't
That's
ask
so
anything crazy.
That's okay. It's all right. She's laughing at that, by the way. She's got an incredible sense of humor. She has cracked Nina up, and she's cracked me up more times
like-
than I can count.
Why
feel like
can't I get one of those? Mine is so serious. Gosh.
No, the daughter's not serious. She's funny. Nichole.
It's just, since Orna showed up, life has just become so much more meaningful. Not that
Yeah.
it wasn't before. It's just like I said, when I thought nothing could get any better, because I was living a wonderful quality of life. I had no complaints, except when it rains and the lack of hair lets the water run into my eyes. I go blind, start bumping into things. But Orna has taught me so much. She taught me the importance of controlling my own thoughts, because I was oblivious to that negative manifestation of negative thinking. And I was like, gosh, no wonder I was sick for so many years. I just kept creating. I was in this endless loop of negativity that I couldn't stop making more. And now all of that has been eliminated for the most part. Once in a while, I have to ask Source to take a thought that jumped out of my head before I could corral it and please turn that into something positive, because I certainly don't know how.
None of us do.
And it's just been an incredible journey, and it's all happened so fast. It hasn't even been a year yet that I've been meditating.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, I struggle with meditation, so. Oh, speaking of Brett, can you remind me? You had mentioned in one of the interviews you did, there's a very simple mantra that you use when you meditate, and I was like, oh, that's so perfect and simple. Can you remind me what it is?
On this, I think, but on my own, although guidance is always helpful and not always verbal about it. It's real simple. I am calm. I am quiet. And then, as that would take me deeper and deeper, then I would start adding different phrases. I'm, in case Tesla's right, I do things in 3, 6s, and 9s. Like my breathing practice is in 6s when I start a meditation, and then a lot of the recitation of things. If it's something I'm really working on at the time, I'll recite something 9 times. If it's something that contributes directly to my mediumship abilities, it's always at least 6 times, usually 9, that I'll recite those. But that's the basic. I am quiet, or excuse me. When I say I am quiet, I am calm, that doesn't work. It has to be I am calm, I am quiet, in that order. Otherwise, monkey mind starts getting out and playing.
Yeah. So when can we expect Orna's books to be out? Where can people find you? And would you mind doing a card pull for us as we close out?
Wait, also, can I say thank you, Maria, for hooking us up with Brett, because we didn't talk about it at the beginning, but that is how we connected, through Maria, and we love her.
Huge thanks to Maria, who I'm supposed to spend a Friday evening with online. We're going to practice a little mediumship, and I find her to be an incredible human being.
She really
I'm not
is.
surprised that you all said that she's the most psychic person you all know, because when I talk to her, it's just like energy's just about to blow me out of the back of my seat.
Isn't it wild? And she's so humble about it, and she doesn't say it. And I'm just like, I know you're seeing things that no one else can see, honey. What are you seeing? Tell me all the things.
And feeling things and hearing things. I think she's got all the clairs, and I think she can become an incredibly powerful force for good.
Totally.
And she's such a sweet human. She's so very sweet. So
And she's
And hood.
gorgeous.
Yes, she is. Although I've only seen her from here up. I can't speak to
She's
the
a
rest, but
tiny
that's-
little thing.
Mhm.
You're tall, right, Brett? You're like 6'1"?
No, I'm 6 foot even. I
Okay.
used to be 6'2", but I shrunk as I
Yeah.
got older.
She's a tiny little thing.
Oh,
I got to meet. She was a fellow classmate of mine at Alcide de Boisdad University. That's where
Yep.
we met. And I got to meet another one of our classmates who came through, wanted to go to the beach. They got small kids, etc. And we connected with them. My wife and I did, and she was barely 5 feet tall. So now I know there's more that Maria's not alone in the low height area.
Well, Gabby's only 4'11".
I'm 5 foot, guys. Nichole
She's
likes to say
4'11".
4'11". I'm not 4'11". So mean, Nichole.
She's 4'12".
My wife was 5'3" when we met, even though she swore she was 5'4". And I looked at her, honey, you're not 5'4".
Yeah.
You're just not.
Yeah, not looking forward to shrinking.
let's measure it and find out.
Yeah.
She was 5'3". She's probably down to 5'2" right now, but I don't dare tell her that.
I'm 5'1" and 3/4", but I say I'm 5'2". I'm probably 5'1" now. I don't know.
What deck are you using?
This is a deck I bought at our church that kept calling to me. It's called Messages from Your Angels. What your angels want you to know. And this name, the author's name,
I have that one too.
it's called
wow.
Doreen. It's by Doreen Virtue.
Yeah. Have you heard about her?
Yes, I have heard about her. And it's these cards are amazing. These are cards that I use when sitters don't really know why they want to talk to you. And I'll pull one of these first just to give me a chance to feel their energy a little longer and connect with their higher self. And these cards are very helpful because they're not just they're all about the light. They're all very useful. This is first card. Let's see what it looks like. Artwork's pretty decent for these, I think. This is Adriana, as I go blind here, right in front of you all. All right, light, get in here. I can't make it any brighter. I am leading you towards the answer to your prayers. Please listen to and follow the steps I am communicating through your intuition, thoughts, and dreams. And I can't believe that was so hard to read. But the color of the words was such that the shine off the light off the card made it very difficult. I'm leading you towards the answer to your prayers. Please listen to and follow the steps I am communicating through your intuition, thoughts, and dreams.
Love it.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
I agree.
So thank you so much, Brett, for coming on, and Orna for you bringing Orna with you and her allowing us to talk to her. Where can the people find you?
You can find me at thankful.carnivore, and that name might be changing to thankful.carnivore.medium before long.
Ooh.
And I have a website, if I could remember the URL off the top of my head.
We can put it in the show notes too, though.
Okay, yeah, I'll get it to you tonight after we get off here, and I go ask my wife. I don't want to yell at her from the other room. Help me out, your husband's forgetting shit again.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we're going to have you on again at some point, because I think more things are just going to be coming up for you. You're going to start doing so much more, and we're going to have a lot more to talk about.
There's many other things to share that we didn't have time for tonight, and I knew that would be the case. That's all right. But I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that there's going to be a part 2, and I look forward to it. This has been everything and more that I hoped it would be. This discussion has been spectacular. I appreciate you. You all have a very kind heart. Each of you are very kind people. I feel it from the other side of the country.
Thank you.
I'm so blessed. It's no accident. I have discovered there are no coincidences ever.
Nope.
About anything. And
I don't believe in them anymore.
When Maria mentioned first that I have these 2 friends, they got this really interesting podcast called The Spiritual Sisters. Maybe you might want to check it out. And I knew right then I'll be talking to them. I didn't know when or about what exactly, but I knew we'd be talking.
It took us a while, but we've been so busy.
That's all right. Life happens. And I think you're all doing a great job. Congratulations on your podcast. And, if you ever want to collaborate on something, I'd be happy to jump in on that. And
totally
keep doing the light worker work.
Well, we received that. And thank you so much. It's got us in our cancer feels.
I've cried enough on this show. I can't. Not today, but just I can't keep crying. It's not a good look for me.
I resemble that remark on occasion. I looking good, crying, just in me. No, that's never going to happen.
It's not good for my street cred.
I'm so old now, street cred really doesn't matter.
Thank you so much, Brett. And guys, we'll have all the information in the show notes. And check out the Instagram page. I shared the morning. Oh my gosh. Morning Blues. And it was so good. I was like, this is exactly what I needed this more. The mood was right. It wasn't too upbeat today. Like, it was just a very good, mellow, like, I could listen to this. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised. So definitely check out the page and see all the yummy bacon too that he he cooks up. It's so delicious. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for this chance, and I wish you all a beautiful evening. And I can't wait till we get together again and do this, because I know people are going to resonate with what was said tonight in many different ways.
Okay, guys. Well, keep listening and stay tuned for the next time we have Mr. Brett on.
Until then.
All right. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.